Hey guys, welcome back to another YouTube video here on my YouTube channel. And in this video, we're going to be covering Cammy and Setty, who have won major championships in the past. And they've won a lot of tournaments. They have a really good history. Just a disclaimer as well. Any basic concepts are not going to be outlined in this video. If you want some more basic explanations, feel free to dive into some of my other videos from the past. You know, things like why is low ground good, why is high ground good. I will not be discussing this in this video. I'm going to assume you know those things. We're going to dive in depth and talk about all the little details that can help you perform well in the end games of today. So let's just dive right into it. Let's talk about what these guys do to make sure that they're getting consistent placement, right? What's really important to understand is that not every kill is free, right? There is freer kills than others. There are kills that are easier than others per se, but there are no such thing as free kills. You're always sacrificing something. Sometimes it's 3 seconds, sometimes it's 500 mats, sometimes it's, you know, certain things. And there's an element of risk associated with each kill that I think you have to really ask yourself, do I need this before you go for it? And most of the time, guys, I've coached over 200, 300 students at this point, right? So I trust me when I say this, that like most people go for kills that they don't need. And sometimes it works, which gives them this false reinforcing sense that like, hey, what I did was correct because the result was positive. But what you don't see is like the risk associated with the kill. Like, for example, let's say I go to the casino one day and I just win the first time I play. Does that mean what I did was right? But you have to understand, like at the casino, like it's much easier to visualize like the risk associated with each play because you just know it's a casino. So of course, if you don't have everything you need, if you're struggling for mats, if you're scuffed, right? If you need this thing to win the game, then absolutely go for the place, go for the impact, go for the things that you need. But in this case, you'll be surprised, like a lot of people actually believe, especially in the challenger level, they genuinely believe, despite having 555 mats or relatively close to 555 mats, 6 splashes, 400 above surge, they will still go for impacts at this stage in first moving. It's so mind-blowing that I have to just take like 2 to 3 minutes of this video to just tell you guys that that's just not correct. That is just not true. Like, to prove my point, like watch this, right? They play low ground, they expand out wide because they have the mats to do so, because again, moving zones are much shorter. They take this wall to be safe, take it ahead of time, take it while it's in storm, take it, like make sure you're always staying ahead. And they make a 2 wide tarp to make sure they're extremely safe, they have the space that they need. And then watch what they do. Look, watch this. This is actually hilarious. And I need you guys to really understand what I mean. Look, 24 seconds left. They have so much time. They could go for 3 different impact plays and still have time to stare at the map and make sure they understand where the next moving zone pulls. Look what they do. Let's watch. Okay, they seem to be doing nothing. They're kind of just reorganizing their loot, making sure they're full HP, you know, basic stuff. And they split across mats. They give it to Setty, who's the tarper, and they have done absolutely nothing except ensure their safety. That's all they did. And so what's really important you understand is like, there is no reason for you to just go for kills. Pretend kills give 0 points. That's honestly what you need to do. If you play like Setty and Cammy, who in my opinion, one of the strongest duos in the world, then you will find success. Even if you do 50% of what they're doing, you will find success. It is not hard to get to an elite level if you just know what you're supposed to do in endgame. And a lot of people, unfortunately, just don't. And that's why they're not doing well. This is the easiest part. Like, I'm not asking you to learn mechanical things that take, you know, months to get. This is just a decision. They decided, because I have everything I need, my win condition is to just AFK. That's all I need to do to win. Do you understand? Like, look, if you edit a wall to go shoot at someone because like, hey, I'm going to get extra surge, even though you don't really need it, or I'm going to go for an impact attempt, you have to realize your awareness is like a resource. You've used up your awareness. And so now if someone smacks on your back wall, you are distracted because you're like going for their kills. And so you are more likely to die. There's a risk associated with going for stuff. And so the risk associated with going for stuff makes more sense when you're poorer in terms of economy. It makes a lot more sense if you don't have mats because you have a lot more to gain. Right now, if Setty and Cammy just kills a duo, right? What does it equate to? It equates to the kill points and that's it. Because they can't really fill up their mats. They have 555. I know, of course, you can argue Cammy is missing about 300, 400 mats, but that's not the important thing. The important thing is, what do you need to win the game? You don't want to get over the top and risk your life for something that you don't need. In this meta, you don't really need that much. Because you look, they're literally double tarping, placing cone floors above them, and they don't really need anything. Watch this. They take that wall to remain safe. The zone shows, look how fast they react to this. Why do they react this quickly? They're doing absolutely nothing else except paying attention to the minimap when there's 2 or 3 seconds left. And that's it. That's all you need to do. And so they katana forward. It's super easy to get low ground again and remain in a safe position yet again because of the fact that they're not distracted. Like, it's really, really important that you manage your risk and only take risk on when you absolutely have to. So, for example, if they're very scuffed, I'm not saying that they would actually play this way. They probably wouldn't. In fact, I would go as far to say that they guaranteed they wouldn't be playing this way. The only reason why they're playing this way is because they're very stacked on their map. the amount of games lost by amateur players that don't know what they're doing, that have, you know, amazing mats, amazing loots, is hilarious. It's actually mind-blowing. You'll be very surprised. And I wish you guys could like hop into my coaching sessions and see these people. So many lost games that just don't have to be lost by just the fact that they go for stuff that they don't need. And so that's just gonna be the lesson for this endgame. I promise you, if you get really good at going for only things that you need, then you'll be very surprised. So they understand in this case that terrain is very, very important to scale, right? And so they use their chug splashes, their white HP, as a resource to make sure that they're able to get the new low ground yet again, because that low ground is going to maintain their safety, right? It's going to make sure that they're not going to get aggressed. It's going to make sure that they have a really, really good layer, because mid ground things can get chaotic. And so if you use your resources to ensure you keep low ground, then you're going to be very, very good. All they're really doing, guys, is just paying attention to enemy build pieces, things that could get them killed. The only way that they can lose, that's what they're trying to prevent, right? And you'll actually be very surprised what, you know, maintaining low ground for the whole game can actually do for you, especially if you do it in a proper way. It's really, really funny how many free kills come to you as a result. For example, you claimed a bunch of space on low ground, you have a bunch of walls that are yours in that space, so any people that are scuffed, any solo players, any people without mats, they'll just be free kills, just like this, right? And so what's really important is you need to own that layer. Now, one thing I will point out, like, this is not actually well established in my analysis here, but so look at this. Why do they not go down? Why don't they continue going low ground? Isn't low ground good? Why don't they stay out this layer? The reason they stay on this layer is because they're so close to zone. It's better to hover a little bit and make sure that you're a little bit elevated on this section. Like, let's say zone pulls back, it's much easier to get back up. The terrain moves like this, right? The terrain goes like this. It's like a ditch. This is like a river, I believe. That's the situation that they're in. And so there's more elevation further. So in this case, isn't it just better to tarp like this if it does pull forward, right? It's better to do something like this rather than go down, right? You go down and then someone else takes your spot over here and then you get buried. Like, that doesn't make a lot of sense. So this is like a pseudo low ground that you don't really need to account for. So if zone pulls back, you just go back, and then if zone goes forward, you just continue and you are matched up with the new low ground. Anyway, that's really the situation that they're in. They don't really need to drop down too much, and they might as well just get the new information of where zone pulls and then decide whether they need to go down further or whatever. Because like, they're so close to the static zone or the safe white circle that they might as well just wait and make sure that they're actually in a situation where they need to drop further. Don't commit to new layers unless you absolutely have to. And the transition of a new moving zone is a really good time to do that. Meaning a new zone has shown, then you drop down because you really know where it's going to pull. Because like right now, they're so close to like where they were before. It's much better to just wait, gather the new information, and then pick your new layer. New transitions and like, look, now they go down further. Why? Because zone has shown itself and it's shown that it's going to pull this way. Right? And so this to them, it means that they can just commit to the lower layers. So they're going to drop up 2 layers. One thing I want to point out, actually, this is an important key point, is as they continue to go down further, they realize that low ground's taken, but that's not the only reason, right? If you look at the minimap and you know this area of the map really well, you can see where the zone pulls up, right? You can see it pulls up onto a mountain. Most deaths in Fortnite, especially at the higher level where it's stacked, they just die to terrain. They just lose to terrain. And so one thing that like I want to point out is like, as you're focusing on all these kills and this aggressiveness and like all these fights and all the cool stuff, you're losing track of what's really important. Awareness is important, not just around you, but what's ahead. Where does zone pull? What do I have to scale to make sure to like stay alive? In this case, they literally have to scale a mountain. They have to get up this mountain. And so it's actually the correct decision not to drop down to low ground, because like I've said before, it's really important to not just take low ground if there's like a mountain in front of you. Like, is this really a good layer if it pulls this way? No, probably not, right? In this case, you probably want to be a little bit more mid ground, a little bit higher up maybe. Or if you're low ground, you need to get up early, like Tank Storm, which is literally very precisely what they did earlier in this video. That's how they actually survived thus far, is because they're paying attention to terrain. If you have the mats that you need, look what they do. In this case, I think like there's no impacts, there's no fights in their mind right now. The only thing that they need to do, and I do think they have the mats to do it, is scale up this mountain, place a couple of builds, establish low ground like they did before, and place a couple of builds around them, and then they can go for fights. They're probably gonna have close to 0 mats right before they like go for that fight, but like at least they've established edits around them so that anyone else coming in will have to walk next to their walls or go up. And going up is probably a death sentence, because like at this point in the game, like it's just height, a couple mid ground layers, and then just low ground. So being mid ground is just like suicidal at this point. So they really, that's why the priority is to establish this low ground layer. And honestly, guys, what I would expect from them at this point is to just tank storm like they did before and just go into storm to take this position. Instead, I think they wait a little bit too long, and it does get a little bit scuffed because of that. Like, look, there's people above them. I think they should have just like ran through storm to get this, because they have some extra splashes, right? So it gets a little bit riskier than needed. They could have totally died here. and been edited on. Like Cammy and Setty are under a lot of threat right now, but they luckily make it past, and I think that was a little bit of luckiness, definitely. If they sort of go forward, the only thing to be concerned about, there's a couple of factors here. If you're trying to like go past everyone and go into storm, especially at this stage of the game, is that Height has a really clear shot, and they're only going to be using wood, right? They just established their lair. I don't think they can stay on this lair anymore. But you see, like, every time it pulls up a mountain, I want you to notice how many people die as a result of that mountain. So as long as you can invest, though, like pretty much the rest of your mats, so just make sure you get up there, you'll be very surprised at like how much of the lobby just gets wiped out. And so let's just do like a little experiment. Go back, right? So it's about like 15, 12 to 15 people at this point, right? And as they scale the mountain, literally half the lobby dies, and it's just top six people. It's probably like a top 3, top 4 in their case in terms of teams. But it's very important, like the reward that you get for successfully scaling a mountain is huge. So invest more mats to make sure that it is done, right? It's very simple. And so I think, yeah, I do think they could have tanked Storm here, but it is a little bit risky because they're using wood, but I think it is absolutely still the right play. It's still definitely better than what they did. However they make it through, it's not a big deal. They can go through and just double cone above you, because that's probably very scary to have a single floor, especially in wood. And so they're checking behind them. Why do they check behind them? That's like the whole purpose of establishing a layer, is to own all the edits, and then you can just edit on people behind you. That's literally how they got a kill moving zone ago, right? And at this point, it's okay that you don't have mats because no one else has mats, right? And at this point, it's just like aim duel, but like, look, are you really sad with the placement that they get? No. I think they're very happy to get a first place, expected a second or third. But like, say you mess up the ending and you just mess up your decision making there, it's actually okay. Like a second or third place, in my opinion, is still a very, very good game. And what's better, in my opinion, is just getting a bunch of second and thirds than the occasional first place, because your playstyle is so risky, right? What's really important is you have to manage your risk. That is a huge part of Fortnite that everyone seems to underappreciate. And as soon as you get into the mindset of managing your risk, so I'll give you a very simple formula, okay? Very, very simple formula. I'll actually give you a couple formulas. First basic formula is, if you have everything you need, you have the solid mats that you need, you are good on surge, you're good on mats, you're good on everything, then like let's talk about it, right? So in this case, you're rich, right? You are really rich on your economy. Your economy is an up arrow. In that case, your risk needs to be a down arrow. Okay, now let's look at the reverse. Let's say you're poor, you need mats, right? So poor, right? When I say poor, I mean, your economy. You can include surge in your economy, honestly, because it's just like a simple number, but same thing. Yeah, so you're poor, you don't really have much, and then in that case, what do you need to do? You need to take on risk in order to go for something. That doesn't mean you just jump in at the first box you see. However much time you have left dictates the amount of risk that you're willing to take. So for example, let's say you have 5 seconds left before surge hits you and you have no white heals. Okay, yeah, like we need to go for a play. Like you really, really need to go for a play, right? So just watch out for that. But like in this case, it's very simple, like basic formula, right? So if you're rich, you don't take any risk at all, and you play super safe. Invest your mats. Your mats are there for a reason. Don't be stingy with mats. A lot of people die that way too, because they're like, oh shit, I'm gonna waste like 2 builds. Like no, use your mats. Okay, so this is the basic sort of basic formula that you can use to like apply to literally any game you want, even outside of Fortnite, believe it or not. Okay, so one thing as well is to understand this formula as well, your impact formula. Okay, so when should I go for an impact? Or rather, I know I need to go for impact because I'm poor. Who should I go for? Okay, there's several factors that you should look at before you decide you should go for an impact. Okay, let's talk about it. Are you in zone? Because oftentimes it's better to use your mats, get into zone, then go for the play, rather than just like, oh shit, I'm backside. I have so much lost tempo because like you're not in front of people. Like you have other things to do. You're behind on tempo. You're behind on the game. You have to rotate forward, and that's always going to be a concern of yours until you solve that issue. And so going for an impact while you have that concern in the back of your head is just not going to be good, because now you have 2 or 3 problems to solve, and it starts to snowball out of control, and then you die, right? So it's very important. Try to solve this as much as you can. There are some exceptions, like if you have 0 mats, like of course, like everything goes out the window. You just need to get a kill. But like in the case where you have like 20 builds, then yeah, like make sure you're trying to get ahead a little bit more, and make sure that you solve this issue first as much as you can. Especially like some people have like 500 mats and they're still like trying to rush a kill. Have the mats to like actually get ahead and then go for the kill if you really want to. And so just watch out for that. Don't fall behind too much on zone when you're trying to go for an impact. Okay, that's very, very important. The other thing is, are they a solo, right? Like, is it a 2v1? Like, that could be a benefit because now your HP vanished, right? Like, you have 2 guns versus 1, you have 400 HP versus 200 HP. The likelihood of you getting that kill increases significantly. The other thing is actually their awareness, right? You can actually body language read and pay attention to where they're looking and what they're doing and how they're behaving to figure out whether they know you're coming for them or not. right? And so awareness, basically what I mean by awareness is their awareness, right? And now, so you see how this is like a multi-factored equation. It's not like, there's more, by the way, like it's not just it, but you see how this is like a multi-factored equation. It's not just like simple as like, oh shit, like I'm just gonna get a kill because I feel like it, or I see a kill, I'm just gonna get it. If you want to become a consistent, really good player, then you have to be a consistent play style. You can't be taking on risk for no reason and pretend like it's not going to get you killed in the next game that you try it, right? It's an element of chance, and that's what happens when you take on risk. And so another thing is, do you need the kill? In other words, do you need to solve your surge? And sometimes you could, like for surge, for example, you can just go for tags instead, or you can pump them for 150 and then like forget the kill because you don't need it because you're 555. Do you need the mats? Do you need the surge? Do you need the loot? Maybe there's like a specific situation where it's about to be heal off and you know they have like white heals because the way they're behaving, they're kind of like staggering behind. And so you go for them because you know they have white heals, and then you steal their white heals and you win the game, right? Sometimes in really high elo lobbies, that's what they'll do because they're like, oh shit, I have all the mats that I want, but I don't have white heals and it's about to be heal off, so I'm gonna go fight someone to get those white heals because otherwise I'm just gonna get 7th. That's just the nature of this meta right now, and so you have to think that way. The very basic premise of the entire thing is, do you need to take on risk right now, or can you just use your mats, live for 3 moving zones straight, and then take on the risk a little bit later? Especially because like this is actually such a common problem. Like I've coached a lot of people, and the amount of times I've repeated myself on this with different teams is hilarious. It's like, this is the only concept that you really need to understand. You don't even need to be a mechanically good player to succeed in competitive. The mind blower, I know, but just understand, do you need this play or do you not need this play? Like if you do need this play because you're 100 mats, like you have 10 wood builds, then yes, go for it. Like I do encourage you to go crazy. I actually encourage people to be riskier than they are when they do need the mats. I'm like, okay, yeah, jump in his box, bro. You can't just like replace here. You need to go for the play, for example. It depends on the situation, but yeah, you understand. Like I tell people, like, be a little bit more risky when you have nothing. But in terms of like when they have everything, when they have all the mats that they need, they have all the surge that they need. Look how Cammy and Setty played. They literally interacted with one person before the very end of the game, which is that like 1 kill that they got. Otherwise, they just tarped. They respected terrain, they respected low ground, they respected literally staying ahead as well. Because the problem is, if you're low ground and you forget to stay ahead, what some people can do is they can drop in front of you and steal your layer. And now you're forced to go back into the treacherous, dangerous mid ground, and that could be a problem because now you're investing more mats. Sometimes you have to cone floor your bottoms with more mats, cone floor your top, use harder mats because you're more concerned. It causes a snowball effect if you're not, you know, prioritizing rotations and playing safe in the situation that you're very rich on your economy. So that's a very simple lesson, guys. That's the overarching idea of this video. If you guys enjoyed this video, if you have any other questions, leave it in the comments below. If you guys like this more advanced, you know, in-depth type of video, let me know, and I will continue to make both types of content, you know, more basic stuff for beginner people who are just getting into competitive, and more advanced stuff for people who are seasoned veterans and want to get into that next level and want to become a pro. So thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you guys next time.